All right, this is Block 7, The Greatest Generation, Part 1, FDR's Foreign Policy, with the section beginning Japanese Invasion of Manchuria. Let's start by familiarizing ourselves with this map. This is going to be one of the two important maps that we look at throughout the course of the Second World War. Okay, this is a map of Southeast Asia in 1931. Okay, at the heart of it is China. This is British India. Okay, British Malaya, of course. I guess you can't touch it. You see Japan. So you see the Philippines, which are right here as American territory. The Netherlands, Dutch East Indies down here. Australia is down off the bottom of the map. And you see all the various islands. The Soviet Union is up at the top. And here is Japan in red. As you know from previous blocks, Block 2 especially, China was it was an independent country, but it was a very weak country. That all the European powers had kind of established trading outposts in China, spheres of influence in China. There was extraterritoriality. The American open door policy tried to keep China open for everyone to trade with it. In the early 20th century, Japan, on the other hand, is a rising and growing and strengthening power. Ever since Japan had decided to open itself up to the rest of the world in the 1850s, they had consciously copied themselves after the British. They built a strong industrial base, the country modernized, they built a navy, they established a colony in Korea, they conquered Korea, and they fought on the Allied side during World War I. Their goal was to snatch up all the German colonies in the Pacific Ocean. So you're talking about a proud people growing, strengthening consistently. And in 1931, with the rest of the world mired in the Depression, Japan made a move. And the people who ran Japan were militaristic in bent. Japan was not a democracy. It was kind of a military government underneath the aegis of the emperor. Japan invades the Chinese province of Manchuria. And the Japanese army sweeps its way through, does not meet much in the way of Chinese opposition, and they establish another country there. They don't claim it as a colony. They name Manchuria Manchukuo. They stick the last Chinese emperor, who had been deposed in 1908, as a 2-year-old. They stick him on the throne of Manchukuo and proceed to rule it as kind of a protectorate. The United States doesn't like this. The United States is kind of emotionally attached to China, and the United States has been emotionally attached to China for a long time, and we're going to be emotionally attached to China throughout the Second World War. But on the other hand, so you have emotional attachment working one way, and you have economic attachment working another way. That the United States has economic interests in both countries, in Japan and China. Plus, there's absolutely no willingness to actually go fight to prevent Japan from taking over the Chinese province of Manchuria. So in the end, a lot of protests were made, a lot of important meetings were called, but action on paper was the only action that took place. And the action that took place due to this invasion of Manchuria came to be known as the Stimson Doctrine. This is Henry Stimson. He is the United States Secretary of War in the 1930s. And what Stimson and the United States say is the United States will not recognize any territory that is taken by force. All country, if a border changes or there's a new country out there and involved in the world, that country has to be recognized by all the other countries. So the Stimson Doctrine says that the United States will simply not recognize that that is Japanese territory. They do not recognize the puppet state of Manchukuo. They go around pretending that it is still part of China. Japan does not particularly mind the United States not recognizing Manchukuo. They have the territory. They are taking advantage of it economically. Legal recognition does not particularly bother the Japanese. Now, This is going to be the story of the entire 1930s. The United States has the military power to stop this. The United States, as does League of Nations, as does the British and French-led League. But with the depths of the Depression going on, and with the American people and the British people and the French people against any sort of furtherance of war, nothing happens. And Japan watches this. You know, the whole world watches this. This is a test. The League of Nations is put up to the test. The League of Nations, that both Japan and China are League members. The whole League of Nations, the whole Treaty of Versailles says if one member is attacked, all the other members have to go to war to defend it. Well, Japan takes measure of the Brits and the French and the Americans, and they say they're not going to go to war for Manchuria. And they are absolutely right. We were not going to go to war for Manchuria, either was anybody else. So Manchuria was conquered by the Japanese in 1931. Before Roosevelt was even president, you have the Stimson Doctrine that says the United States would not recognize any territory taken by force, but we aren't going to do anything in reality against it.